You're driving home after a long day. Red and blue lights flash in your rearview mirror. Your heart drops. You pull over safely, hands on the wheel. The officer walks up and before you can think, he asks, "Do you know how fast you were going?" Most drivers answer without thinking. They say yes, they guess, they apologize. Every day, thousands of people turn a simple traffic stop into a guaranteed ticket or worse, a confession on body camera used against them in court. Educational content only. Consult an attorney for specific guidance. I've studied Supreme Court rulings and analyzed 200-plus cases. I've identified 5 responses that destroy your defense. I'll show you how prosecutors turn honesty into conviction, the Supreme Court case on silence, and the one sentence that protects you. By the end, you'll know the only 4 things you should ever say during a traffic stop. Mistake number 1, admitting your speed. Officer asks, "Do you know how fast you were going?" You say, "Yeah, about 70. You just confessed on camera. Exhibit A. When an officer asks that question, he's gathering evidence, not making conversation. Police training, get admissions. Once you say yes, the prosecutor doesn't need radar. They have your words. Let me show you how this plays out. Officer testifies you admitted to 70. Body cam plays. Case closed. Here's the legal reality. Fifth Amendment protects against self-incrimination, but Salinas versus Texas ruled you must expressly invoke it. Silence alone doesn't protect you. Prosecutors can use uninvoked silence as guilt evidence. So when the officer asks about your speed, your brain wants to answer, "Don't." The correct response is simple and legally safe. "I'm not sure, officer." Say it calmly and respectfully. This phrase isn't a lie, doesn't admit anything, sounds neutral and non-defensive. If the officer pushes back, you respond the same. "I'm not sure, officer." Don't elaborate or explain. The officer's job is to gather information. Your job is to protect yourself. Here's why this works. Here's why this works legally. You're showing cooperation without volunteering a confession. And without your admission, the state has to prove your speed through other means, radar, pacing, or visual estimation, all of which can be challenged in court. Remember, body cameras record every single word you say. Every word becomes evidence. Bottom line, when asked if you know your speed, say, "I'm not sure, officer." That phrase keeps you from confessing on camera. Fifth Amendment protects testimonial self-incrimination. Mistake 2 gives up another protection. Mistake number 2, saying, "I don't know." This sounds harmless. The officer asks about your speed. You think, "I don't know" protects you because you're not admitting anything. Wrong. Picture this. Officer, "Do you know how fast you were going?" You, "No, I don't know." Officer, "So you weren't paying attention to your speed?" You, "I guess not." You just admitted to negligent driving on camera. Here's the prosecutor's playbook. They take your "I don't know" and frame it as proof you were driving carelessly. In court, prosecutor, "Officer, what did the defendant say?" Officer, "He said he didn't know how fast he was going." Prosecutor, "So he admitted he wasn't monitoring his speed?" Officer, "Correct." Prosecutor, "The defendant wasn't paying attention to speed. That's reckless driving." The legal problem: traffic laws require drivers to operate safely and within posted limits. When you say, "I don't know," prosecutors argue you violated your duty to control your vehicle. And here's the dangerous part. Officers use your "I don't know" to justify additional investigation. If you don't know your speed, maybe you're impaired. Maybe you're distracted. I've seen body cam footage where this happens. Officer, "You don't know how fast you were going?" Driver, "No, I wasn't really watching." Officer, "Have you been drinking tonight?" Your innocent answer gave reasonable suspicion to investigate DUI. The correct response is the same. I'm not sure, officer. But if the officer asks, so you don't know your speed? Here's your follow-up. I prefer not to answer questions, officer. Say it politely. I prefer not to answer questions, officer. This invokes your Fifth Amendment right without sounding aggressive. If the officer continues pressing, I'm happy to provide my license and registration, but I prefer not to answer questions. This works because you're showing cooperation with required documents, but drawing a clear line. Documents, yes. Self-incriminating statements, no. Under Pennsylvania v. Mims, officers can order you out for safety, but they cannot force you to answer questions. Your silence, properly invoked, is your shield. Bottom line, never say, I don't know, about your speed. It sounds like negligence. Say, I'm not sure, officer, or I prefer not to answer questions. You learned how to avoid the negligence trap. That's Fifth Amendment protection. But there's a second case controlling what happens if the officer keeps questioning despite your invocation. Rodriguez v. United States established time limits on detention. Mistake 3 is where drivers extend that detention voluntarily by continuing to engage. Mistake number 3, guessing or estimating your speed. This is the trap that catches good people who are trying to be helpful. The officer asks, do you know how fast you were going? You want to seem reasonable. So you say something like, maybe 65, or I think around the speed limit. That guess just became your confession. Here's the dialogue that destroys cases. Officer, do you know how fast you were going? You, maybe 65? Officer, I clocked you at 78. You, oh wow, I didn't realize I was going that fast. Officer, so you admit you were speeding? You just didn't know by how much? You, I guess so, yeah. 3 sentences, 3 admissions, all on body cam, all admissible in court. Here's what just happened legally. When you said maybe 65, you established that you were monitoring your speed. That eliminates any negligence defense. Then when the officer told you the actual speed and you said, I didn't realize, you admitted to the higher speed. Finally, when you said, I guess so, you confirmed both that you were speeding and that you knew it was wrong. Prosecutors love this exchange because it gives them everything. Here's how it sounds in court. Prosecutor, officer, what did the defendant say when you told him his actual speed? Officer, he said, I didn't realize I was going that fast. Prosecutor, did he deny going that fast? Officer, no, he admitted it. Prosecutor, no further questions. The body cam footage gets played. The jury hears you admit to speeding. Your estimate, even if it was lower than the actual speed, proves you knew you were traveling at some speed above the limit. The fact that you underestimated doesn't help you. It just shows you weren't paying close enough attention. And here's the compound problem. Once you start estimating, officers will push for more details. Officer, you said maybe 65. Were you looking at your speedometer? You? Yeah, I think so. Officer, so your speedometer was working fine? You? Yeah. Officer, and you saw it said 65? You? I think so, yeah. Officer, but the speed limit here is 55, correct? You? Oh, I thought it was 60. Officer, so you admit you were going 65 in what you thought was a 60-mile-per-hour zone? You? Well, I wasn't sure. Officer, but you just said you saw 65 on your speedometer. See how you just talked yourself into a ticket? Every answer you give creates a new problem. The correct response when asked about your speed? Same as before. I'm not sure, officer. If the officer follows up with, you don't have any idea, you respond, I prefer not to answer questions, officer. If he says, why not, you calmly state, I'm choosing to remain silent. I'm happy to provide my documents. Here's the key legal principle. In traffic court, the state must prove you were speeding. Without your admission, they have to rely on their evidence, radar, lidar, pacing, or visual estimate. All of those can be challenged. radar calibration records, LiDAR training certificates, pacing distance and duration, visual estimation training. But your own admission, that can't be challenged. It's your words, your voice, your confession. Bottom line, never guess your speed. Every estimate is an admission that can be used against you. Stay with "I'm not sure, officer," and invoke your right to remain silent. You've avoided 3 types of verbal self-incrimination, but prosecutors need more than one piece of evidence for conviction. They need to build a complete case. You prevented them from getting your speed admission. But there's another piece they're fishing for through the officer's next psychological tactic. Mistake 4 is where drivers hand prosecutors the second critical piece. Mistake number 4, explaining or justifying why you were speeding. This trap gets people who want to seem reasonable. The officer knows you were speeding. Now he's giving you a chance to explain. You think if you have a good reason, maybe he'll let you off. So you start talking. "I was keeping up with traffic. Everyone else was going the same speed. I was late for work. My kid has a doctor's appointment." Every explanation is an admission you were speeding. Watch this exchange. "Officer, do you know why I pulled you over?" You. "Was I speeding? I was just keeping up with traffic." Officer, so you admit you were speeding to match traffic flow? You. "Well, yeah, but everyone else was too." Officer, "I'm not stopping everyone else. I'm stopping you. And you just admitted speeding." That explanation became Exhibit A. You admitted to the violation and gave a reason that doesn't legally justify it. Here's the reality. "Everyone else was speeding" is not a defense. Traffic courts hear this every day. Judges don't care. The law says you can't speed. Period. Let me show you how prosecutors use explanations. Prosecutor, did the defendant provide a reason for speeding? Officer, yes, he said he was keeping up with traffic. Prosecutor, did that make his speeding legal? Officer, no. Prosecutor, so he admitted to knowingly breaking the law? Officer, correct. Your explanation proved your violation was intentional. You made a conscious choice to speed because of traffic flow. That's worse than accidentally speeding. Other explanations that destroyed defenses: "I didn't see the speed limit sign." Admission you were speeding plus you weren't paying attention to signage. 2 violations: "My speedometer must be off." Admission you were speeding plus your vehicle isn't properly maintained. Some jurisdictions make that a separate citation. "I was going downhill and didn't realize." Admission you were speeding plus you weren't controlling your speed. Failure to maintain control. Every explanation contains an admission. Body cameras capture all of it. The correct response is silence. When the officer asks why you were speeding, don't explain. Don't justify. Invoke your rights. Officer, I prefer not to answer questions. If he asks why, I'm exercising my right to remain silent. If he says that makes you look guilty, I understand. I'm still exercising my right to remain silent. This is Supreme Court protected. You don't have to explain yourself. You have the absolute right to remain silent. And that silence cannot be used against you in court as long as you properly invoke it. Bottom line, never explain why you were speeding. Every explanation is admission of guilt. Stay silent and let your attorney handle defense in court. Now you understand how to protect Fifth Amendment rights through proper invocation. But there's another constitutional protection that applies specifically to physical evidence. The Fourth Amendment operates independently from the Fifth. Mistake 5 is where drivers give up their strongest constitutional shield by being polite. Mistake number 5, apologizing to the officer. This sounds crazy. How can saying sorry hurt you? Because "I'm sorry" is a confession of guilt. It's an admission you did something wrong, and it's recorded on body cam that plays in court. Picture this. Officer, do you know why I pulled you over? You, I'm sorry, officer. I know I was going a bit fast. 2 apologies, 2 admissions, on camera. Here's how prosecutors use apologies. Prosecutor: Officer, did the defendant acknowledge wrongdoing? Officer: Yes, he apologized multiple times and said, "I'm sorry, I know I was going a bit fast." Prosecutor: So he admitted to speeding and expressed remorse? Officer: Yes. Your apology became a guilty plea. Here's why people do this. We're trained from childhood to apologize when we do something wrong. It's polite, it's respectful. In normal life, apologizing helps. But a traffic stop isn't normal life. It's a legal proceeding. Everything you say is evidence. Apologies are admissions. The correct approach is professional neutrality. Officer: Do you know why I pulled you over? You: No, officer. Officer: You were speeding, license and registration. You: Here you go, officer. No apology, no admission, just compliance with lawful requests. If the officer says, "You don't seem sorry," you respond, "I prefer not to answer questions, officer." You're showing respect through tone and demeanor. You're complying with lawful orders. But you're not volunteering incriminating statements. You can be polite without being apologetic. Polite means respectful tone, calm demeanor, compliance. Apologetic means admitting fault, expressing remorse, confessing. Stay polite. Never apologize. Bottom line, saying "I'm sorry" during a traffic stop is a confession. Stay professional. Stay calm. But never apologize for something you haven't been convicted of doing. Here's the truth about traffic stops. Your words are more dangerous than your speed. Every day, drivers talk themselves into tickets they could have fought. They admit, they explain, they guess, they apologize, and every word becomes evidence that prosecutors use to secure convictions. You just learned the 5 mistakes that destroy defenses before you even leave the roadside. Admitting your speed, saying you don't know, guessing or estimating, explaining or justifying, and apologizing. Every one of those responses is a confession captured on camera. Remember the 4 phrases that protect you during any traffic stop. "I'm not sure, officer," when asked about your speed. "I prefer not to answer questions" when pressed for details. "I'm exercising my right to remain silent" when the officer pushes back. "I do not consent to searches" if they ask to search your vehicle. Memorize these phrases. Practice them. Because the next time you see red and blue lights behind you, these 4 sentences are the only thing standing between you and a conviction. Stay calm. Stay polite. Stay silent. Provide your license, registration, registration and insurance when requested. But don't volunteer information. Don't explain yourself. Don't confess to violations. You're not required to help police officers build a case against you. You're required to provide your documents. That's it. Everything else is optional. Let your attorney handle the defense in court where it belongs, not on the roadside, not on body cam footage. Remember, this is educational content only, not legal advice. Always consult with a qualified attorney in your state for your specific situation. If you found this valuable, like this video to help others learn these critical protections. Subscribe for more legal education that could save your license, your money, or your freedom. And hit the bell so you never miss strategies that protect your constitutional rights. That covers one critical moment during a traffic stop. But there are other situations where different legal standards apply. I break down those scenarios and the legal framework in the next video showing on screen now. Watch it to complete your education on traffic stop rights. Because the smartest drivers aren't the ones who talk their way out of tickets. They're the ones who stay silent and let the law work for them.